The fundamentals of elementary education, reading, writing, and arithmetic, are getting a boost from video making as a teaching tool in the classroom. Today, you will meet Sunnyvale's Nimitz Elementary School teacher, Susan Woods, as well as one of her students and the student's parent. Susan will tell us how she uses video making in her third grade class to teach many subjects to her students, and you will hear how they are responding to this approach to teaching. Stay tuned.
Welcome to The Better Part, a program that encompasses a diverse spectrum of topics important to our community, which we hope will both inform and entertain you. We invite you to sit back and enjoy the program.
With us in the studio today are Susan Woods, who teaches third grade at Nimitz Elementary School in Sunnyvale, one of her students, Leahy Waxman, and the student's mother, Annette Waxman. Susan, tell us how and when you began using video making as a teaching tool to enhance your students' learning in the classroom.
Okay. In 2005, the Krause Center of Innovation at Foothill College began a program called Earn While You Learn. So one of my friends, Peggy Chu, another teacher, and I signed up to take these classes. And it was a 3-week intensive summer training where we had to choose our own curriculum, grade level materials, and then we had to choose what form of technology we would like to use to enhance our lesson plans. So we spent 3 weeks at the college. I chose iMovie, which is an Apple product, and it's a software program to create movies. And I incorporated it with third grade standards and curriculum. And then the Krause Center, it was called Earn While You Learn because they enhanced the program by giving us a $3,000 stipend to begin the program.
That's very generous.
It was wonderful. And then we had to incorporate the lessons throughout the following year, take follow-up classes, and at the end of the year, we received a final $1,000 stipend and season tickets to the lecture series at Flint Center, where I got to see Bob Ballard and Colin Powell and Doris Kearns Goodwin and many others speak. So it was a great incentive program, as well as giving us technology gifts. We got digital cameras and flash drives and external hard drives just for being part of this program. So I wrote curriculum and incorporated it into my classroom. In the springtime, I work for Cupertino Union School District, and we have the Cupertino Education Endowment Foundation, also known as CEF, and they hosted a technology competition for members of the Earn While You Learn program in our district. So I submitted my projects to that, and in my first year, I won 2 awards.
Well, can you tell us what the plaque says for
Yes.
one of them? That's
So
kind of interesting.
The first award was the best use of technology to inspire communication and collaboration.
Can you pass this to Susan?
Thank you. And the second award was best overall use of technology to enhance teaching and learning in grades 3 through 5.
Wonderful.
And along with this honor came very nice gifts. I won a MacBook Pro laptop computer from Apple and an iPod docking station.
So that all fitted in with the iMovie that you've been learning about at the Foothill.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Our district also had support people from the district office who kept this program going, Adora Fisher, Donna Axelson, and Julie Stewart, and they turned it into a TSTA tech support team that I was also part of for a couple of years following that. And I was asked by the Krause Center to teach iMovie the following year to the next group of Earn While You Learn students. And then the district hired me to teach iMovie in the summertime to train all the principals on how to use iMovies. So
I understand you told me that training the principals was rather difficult until you stood up and said, okay, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So I had taught third graders how to make iMovies, and that was challenging, but it went very well. Then I taught the teachers at Foothill College, and that went pretty well. And then my third set of students were principals. And they also brought in Apple employees because it was their software. And so I was a little nervous, and the principals were struggling. They had a really difficult time. And my principal was there, Dale Jones, and they weren't listening very well. And the software people from Apple kept telling me, you're losing them, you're losing them. And I didn't want to lose the audience, so I said, well, watch this. And I stood up and I got everyone's attention, and I told them, I've taught third graders and I've taught teachers, and this is the worst group I've ever taught. So sit down and listen to me. And when I tell you to do something, you do it and you say check. And so I would tell them to do this, check, do that, check. And pretty soon they each had a very short iMovie, and then I could hear them say, oh, I get it. And my principal's on the side laughing at me because I got their attention. And then they told me it was the best part of their 3-day training that summer. So it was pretty fun.
Now, you mentioned Dale Jones, your principal, was in that class. To tell us a little bit about how back at Nimitz Elementary, Dale helped you to bring all this knowledge to your class.
Yes, Dale was very, very supportive and thought that the iMovie projects that I had created was a wonderful addition and enhancement to the classroom. We are a Title I school, so we have some extra funding, and he was very creative in how to use that funding.
What does Title I mean?
Title I means that we have a large population of students who are at risk and possibly low income and are struggling academically and need extra support in reading and math and the basics.
Now, this takes place after the regular school hours?
Well, normally the support programs we have are during the day.
During the day.
During the day. But Dale used extra money to create enrichment classes after school,
Okay.
which our school had never done before. So, and each teacher could volunteer to teach a class, and we got paid for it as well. And I chose to teach iMovie enrichment classes, and I had it open to 2nd grade through 5th grade, including ELD, because we host ELD students, which are English language development students, students who move to this country and they're getting their first experience in the public school setting. So I did have a lot of ELD students create movies in English for the very first time. And at the same time we started that program, the CEF, the Cupertino Educational Endowment Foundation, began hosting a Children's Epic Film Festival competition within our own district. And
Where did they hold the festival?
they held the event at Lawson Middle School in the spring, but they had the deadline for the movies and all of the paperwork was in February. So I was teaching my own class how to make an iMovie, and then after...
Now, in your class, how many students do you typically have?
At that time, 20.
20. Okay.
Now we have a few more.
So in addition to the 20, you got involved with extra
After
work.
school. So I would
After
have
school.
2 10-week sessions of 10 kids. So I was producing about 40 movies a year and entering all of them into the competition. And it was really fun. The gifts were, prizes were sponsored by Apple Computer and the Learning Game. And in all of those years, I had one winner, Kyle Burris, and he did a movie on how to make a volcano erupt, and he did it over several days in his driveway and actually made it erupt. So it was really cool.
So I understand also, in addition to the help from your school and Dale Jones as principal, you were receiving Apple Company employee volunteers. Tell us about that.
Yes, Nimitz is a wonderful school. We're very fortunate. We've had a partnership with Apple Computers for, I'm guessing, nearly 30 years now.
Good grief.
Maureen Wilson from Apple runs this program, and their employees sign up to volunteer at our school, and we kick it off with a luncheon in the fall, and they're assigned to tutor one student from each class, or 2 if there's enough, or they could be a teacher's aide, or they could be a tech support person. So at the same time I was so fortunate to receive Peter Tullio, and he was my tech support for iMovies for the last 4 years. He helped me learn the new version of iMovie so that I could make the movie's qualities even better. And
I understand he even introduced the blue screen effect for the students' videos.
yes, and he trained me on how to do that, and the kids, and he was so great with the kids that they actually called him Dr. Tullio.
Doctor.
So,
How
but
did he react? Did he?
He loved it. He thought it was great. But he's not participating this year, but I do have 3 wonderful Apple tutors that are tutoring my students this year in math.
Well, you mentioned that one of your students, a previous student, Riley, you asked him what his reaction was. Now, he's up in an middle school grade, but in talking to him, what did he say? You can go ahead and quote the letter.
Yes, Riley's in 7th grade, so he was in my 3rd grade class 4 years ago and participated in the iMovie project. And I had asked Riley a couple months ago what he felt he learned from making an iMovie in 3rd grade and if it helped him later on. And so I wrote down his exact words because they really say it from his heart, and I don't know if I could do it justice if I tried to summarize it. So he told me that after doing the iMovie project that he felt he could now present.
What do you mean by present?
Give an oral presentation.
In front of a group of people.
In front of a group of people.
Or an auditorium full of people.
Exactly. He said it pushed away his shyness, and he felt really good about his project that he did in 3rd grade on China. He said he used to be really afraid to present, and now he feels that he can do it. He said that middle school teachers ask you to present your results and whether they are a success or a failure. And now he knows that he needs to describe a little bit about the success and stay away from the failure.
Smart young man.
And he said that he learned to try his best and to be clear, but he thinks that the iMovie project helped him to prepare for internet research projects and writing in his own words.
So this is a clear-cut case of a student having gone through the process of making a movie in the class, benefiting enormously in ways that he might not otherwise have accomplished.
Yes, and it was wonderful feedback for me. Yesterday, my class went to a field trip to the Tech Museum with the other 3rd grade classes from my school, and one of the moms approached me, and she asked me if I remembered her daughter, Nicole Nobre, from 4 years ago, and it took me a minute to remember, and I said, well, what movie did she do? And she said, Making Friends, and I said, yes, I remember her. And she wanted to let me know that she felt that her experience in the enrichment program at Nimitz, making that iMovie, helped her to come out of her shell and not be afraid and shy. And now in middle school, she's involved in the animation program and she's doing wonderful things. And this mom didn't know that I was coming here today.
So in the 3rd grade, she perhaps has developed a career move in an industry that's becoming very, very substantial in the Bay Area. I met a young man in your classroom one day. He and his mother came in while we were talking about this program. His name is Sean.
Yes.
And you told me that his mother said he's been transferred from schools and he's new to your class and so on, and he used to kind of drag himself to class, and now that he sets off in the morning from home with a spring in his step. And I think that's a very lovely way for thinking about how children approach coming into the classroom.
Yes. I remember that parent on back to school night in the fall, while I was giving my speech to the parents, she had brought a camcorder. She was actually videotaping me. And again, like she said, she was new to our school and everything, and district actually. And so the first thing I tell the parents is, welcome to 3rd grade and room 18. And upon entering my classroom, you and your child have been bestowed 2 honors. 1, your child will learn how to compost because I'm in charge of the school-wide composting. And 2, your child will make an iMovie this year. And that mom instantly jumped up and said, scored, we scored.
Hoorah!
Yeah.
Good. So obviously she's right behind her son Sean in this effort. So tell us a little bit about a very interesting story about Peleg Rand.
Yes, another really cool story. Peleg was a former student of mine, and he was a beautiful child and very outgoing. He did not need any coaxing to come out of his shell. And he was really into this iMovie more than most of my students have ever been. And he created his own script and wrote How to Make Friends movie. And he got 4 of his friends to be actors, and he was in it himself, but he also wanted to film it, direct it, produce it, act in it. And he did most of that.
A regular Orson Welles, huh?
It was. So his movie was an honorable mention at the film festival, and at that year there happened to be a talent scout watching these films from Hollywood, and they approached the family and invited them to come to Hollywood and wanted Peleg to take acting classes in Hollywood because they saw potential in him as a future child star. And so the parents came to me and they're like, "What do you think, Miss Woods?" And I said that it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and that this doesn't usually happen at this age. And if they could financially and emotionally support him, then I say go for it. And the parents could, and they did. And his whole 4th grade year, they flew him back and forth from here to Hollywood. And he took classes and he starred in some commercials and low-budget films. And he did very well, and the parents were really happy with that. And they've since relocated back to Israel, and he is acting in Israel.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, now, in addition to these special students that have made it, Riley, Peleg, tell us, you asked your students in class the other day, this is the general run-of-the-mill student, the 23 students. What was their reaction about what they learned?
Well, they told me that they're learning how to do writing and researching and using the computer and learning teamwork and learning how to use kids' search engines, learning how to type on a keyboard, learning how to cut and paste in a Word document. They're learning how to paraphrase and write topic sentences. They're learning how to write more details in their papers. And their vocabulary has really improved. That's what I've noticed the most.
Very, very important that vocabulary especially is as they go into higher learning. This is a wonderful opportunity since we've learned about you and your background and how you got involved with this. You've given us some examples of the students. Let's ask Lihi. Lihi, tell us a little about your project that is underway now.
The title of my project is The Worst Natural Disasters.
The worst natural disasters? That's an unusual subject to pick. What caused you to select that one?
Well, I picked this subject because, actually my friends picked it. My partners that I'm working with, they picked it, and I just agreed because I thought it was very interesting and a good chance to find out about all the different disasters that have happened in the world.
Well, we certainly know about disasters before we were born, but you've lived and seen the Haitian earthquake, so you're aware that strange and bad things can happen. You mentioned your team. How many people are on your team?
2 people.
What are their names?
Jade and Fernanda.
A little bit louder.
Jade and Fernanda.
And how do you get along now? It's not your selection of a topic to do. What would have been your selection had you chosen?
The part of the movie I've chosen 2 disasters. All of us are doing 2. So I chose hurricanes and volcanoes.
Oh, good. So I would like to ask Mrs. Waxman, with your daughter involved in this kind of learning at 3rd grade, what is your reaction to this?
I think she had a very special year, and I think the most important thing that she learned this year was teamwork. I actually knew those 2 words only when I started to work. What is teamwork and how to work to be part of a team. And Leah and her friends were very fortunate this year to get to know to work together when they're only 3rd grader, because it's become part of them. I remember in the beginning of the year when they just started to work on the movie, Lee came home upset because she could. The three girls. Both, all of them are smart and really
competitive,
cute.
yes.
And they couldn't agree of the theme of the project. Each one of them wanted to bring our own ideas, and so it was funny. I was talking with Miss Woods, and she told me that they work in parallel. So instead of each one of the girls to help each other and to do research, want to do paraphrasing, what to do, so they work parallel, and it's kind of like they did a different project, each one of them on the same subject. And Miss Woods talked with them, and she told them, if you cannot work together, maybe you should separate and like work individual. No, we don't want. We want to be together. And like little by little, she came to me and she said, as she told you, she learned to compromise. So she had, I guess she had another idea, and then they pick one of the other girls' idea, and she was such. It's fine with me. I have other things to bring, and now. They're all happy, and I was. We were very, very fortunate this year.
In addition to the mechanics of making a movie and learning an awful lot about the worst natural disasters, you learned a very basic thing in life: how important teamwork is, getting along with people that you don't always particularly know you're going to be happy working with. That's a real benefit.
Yeah.
Susan, you were telling us earlier the list of things that the students benefited from by making movies in the classroom. And one of the words that I kept hearing when we were doing some interviewing was paraphrasing. Can you tell us a little about paraphrasing and why it seems to be a problem?
Yes. Paraphrasing is extremely difficult for most people, but for a third grader, they don't even know where to begin. I begin the year teaching grammar, how to write a complete sentence or a complete thought. And I spend most of the fall getting the children to write a complete sentence. So when we start this project, they have not had any formal training in paragraph writing, let alone paraphrasing. So the first thing I teach after the grammar is what plagiarism is. They need to know that it's copying someone else's work and putting your name on it, and that it's illegal. So we start with that, and then we go to paraphrasing. And paraphrasing is taking the ideas that they research and putting it into their own words. So I teach it as a whole class. We have the kids up front. They all have their projects. We choose one. We read one sentence. And then we discuss ways with this one sentence. How could we turn this into your own words? I teach them how to take the end of the sentence and maybe bring it to the beginning of the sentence. I have a rule that if there's a big word in the sentence and they don't know what it means, that they're not allowed to use it. So they also use a thesaurus. They can look up that word and find synonyms for the word. And when they find a synonym that they're like, oh, I know that word, then they'll plug that word in. Now, sometimes it doesn't always read well, but it's from an 8-year-old's perspective, so I think it's beautiful. So we go around the room to get ideas from 4 or 5 of the students who kind of understand it. And they'll give out an example. Well, maybe you could say it this way. And then the child has 5 different examples, and they can choose from one of those 5. They could put any 2 together, or they can create their own. And then they get to put it into their words, but they have someone helping them. Then we move to the next team, and we help them with one sentence. And I've done 4 or 5 different sessions like this. And there's usually 4 or 5 kids that really get the idea of how to paraphrase, but more participate and generate more ideas. And pretty soon, a large group are ready to go off on their own and paraphrase by themselves. And there's still a handful that need one-on-one support, and I do a lot of one-on-one writing conferencing. But that's how I get to try to get them to understand what paraphrasing is.
Well, we're going to give our viewing audience a treat. We're going to show a clip. So pay attention, audience. We're going to show a clip of the movie-making project you and your 2 classmates are working on.
Worst disasters. There have been many destructive disasters decade after decade. They include tsunamis, earthquakes, tornadoes, and hurricanes. These natural disasters have caused devastating destruction all around the world. So what happens when these disasters hit? Let's take a closer look at just a few. Tsunamis. Tsunamis happen when a body of water, like an ocean or a sea, is displaced. When an earthquake happens in a body of water, sometimes it causes a tsunami. The word tsunami comes from the Japanese. It means harbor wave. Tidal waves are what tsunamis have been referred to because when they approach land, they are very intense. Tornadoes. One massive and big tornado was in Sicily, Italy, in December of 1851. Two different waterspouts were located at the western part of Sicily. They went on shore and they became giant and deadly. Some of the little details is that it looked like two waterspouts, but people say it could have been a multiple vortex tornado. This deadly event is the second deadliest tornado in Europe's entire history. In 1970, the Bola cyclone hit Bangladesh on November 12th. This was rated a Category 3 hurricane, so it was pretty destructive. This hurricane was so bad that it almost wiped a few towns right off the earth. Also, it killed 300,000 people. Learning about history is fun and interesting for many people, including us. We hope you learned a lot of information about some of the world's worst disasters.
Well, I'm sure our audience is amazed at the work that you've been doing, and we're coming to the end of our program. Susan, is there any last thoughts you'd like to leave with our viewers?
Yes, I would like the viewers to know that I believe that children are capable of anything. So I like to set the bar high because I know that there's always a few that will reach it and there's a few that will surpass it. I believe that their creativeness is boundless and that they exceed our expectation, and all I need to do is to show them the way and open the door. I believe that we need to recognize the inner talents of children and harness their energy and point them in the right direction. And lastly, I feel that my students leave my classroom at the end of the year with the self-esteem as their best friend.
Thank you so much for the work you're doing at
Thank you.
Nimitz. Today we have seen how video making in Susan Wood's third grade classroom enables her students to learn much more than the basic reading and writing and arithmetic. We hope you have enjoyed this program and will join us again this time next week for another edition of The Better Part. Goodbye till then.